What's going on, champs and champettes? It's FireMonkey here, and in today's YouTube video we have to go ahead and talk about the most disappointing thing Fortnite's been doing recently, and it's been something that Epic Games has been thinking about doing since all the way back in like 2020 during peak COVID time. So it's definitely been an interesting change, but I thought I would go ahead and make today's YouTube video to just talk about it and get some discussion going. If you've seen posts online like on X or Twitter or whatever else, you already know no one really likes this. You know, some people here and there might like the idea of it due to the file size getting smaller, but overall it isn't really the best thing. And of course, in today's YouTube video we're talking about streamed assets. Now, what is streamed assets for people unaware? Well, if we go to our locker and we click on absolutely anything like skins, for example, you may notice that if I hover over the mongrel skin, it's going to have a little loading icon in the top left for a little bit. And in some cases, when we actually go to load a skin, if my Wi-Fi wasn't this fast, you know, we'd be able to actually see an image preview of what the skin actually was going to look like. So if we just kind of keep hovering over stuff, you can see right there, we actually got an image preview before the skin itself loaded in. That is because of streamed assets. Now, in previous updates, we've seen an issue where things like emotes or whatever else in your locker were deloading every time you loaded past them. But before, if we had scrolled down here or whatever, you know, if we go all the way to the bottom of the list, we wouldn't have this loading effect right here. It would just pop up all the skin icons right away because they're in the game files, and they would be able to call it a day there. Even if we go over to like a variant, for example, this color icon, right, you know, being able to switch between default or white color icons, technically was originally in the files. However, now this is all streamed to the game. And it is why we've started to see more and more issues. Certain things, for example, by the way, such as primary color options, are not streamed at all. So all of these different color options are going to load instantly no matter what we click on. Even if we go all the way up to like mongrel, for example, you'll notice that the color options instantly load because these icons aren't actually streamed. The only icons that are streamed is like reactivity on or off, having, you know, the different style options right here, that type of stuff. Even if we go over to Sloan, for example, and we start looking at the different variants, you can actually accidentally leak one of the upcoming variants. As you may have noticed right there, there was Sloan with a 7 helmet on, and that got leaked through streamed assets. So because of this whole entire system Epic Games is trying to do, where everything is streamed to the game, they're accidentally causing leaks as well, and it's how certain skins that are still encrypted to this day have been leaked before. But it's becoming more and more of a problem because absolutely everything you own gets streamed to the game now. You know, it's trying to keep the file size smaller, but in return, it does make the game laggier, especially if you're on worse Wi-Fi connections and stuff. Like here, I have pretty good Wi-Fi, so as you can see, things loaded pretty quickly, but if you're on like 100 megabyte upload downloaded, you're going to have this issue 10 times as worse than what I have right here. If we go over to backblings, you can see the same thing happening once again with everything loading. Pickaxes, gliders, kicks also have that issue, contrails have the issue, auras have the issue, absolutely everything does. And with each update, they've gone ahead and started making more and more things stream. So as we scroll through here, you can see that every single time I scroll through this, it's loading an image from an API, and you can see it's a little slower if I spam scroll through everything. And to kind of explain this a little bit more and why this is bad for your internet, let's take something like this spray right here, right? There, by the way, right now, I don't believe the actual spray image that goes on walls and stuff is streamed, but in the future, they plan to make that streamed, so it's something to kind of keep your eyes out for. But as of right now, when it comes to the actual meshes and everything in the game and the icons, every single time you load something new, it is going to load that icon from a web API known as Cosmos. So for example, if we just take this first row, there's 6 items. That means we sent 6 API requests to grab the image from a website and have it downloaded to us. And if we think about this, we have 6 times 4. So just from that alone, that has been 24 requests to an API, not even including the 5th row down here. But if I like scroll through here, you know, I'm just curious of what I got going on. Everything I'm scrolling past is submitting more API requests. And you know, if we continue scrolling, it ends up being something where it will slow down a little bit. You can kind of see certain things, right? Like this one take a little bit longer to grab than everything else, but it would be something that, you know, would be nice if it's saved locally after you scrolled through it. However, with how the system is currently set up, as you can see, if we scroll back down here, and then if we scroll back up, it deloads some of the images you've already seen. Now, they did fix this a little bit, so some of the images do stay downloaded, but it will deload some of the stuff, especially when you load up a lot of things at the same time. So we just go down here real quickly, and then we start scrolling back up here. you can see that some of the things that were up here kind of get deloaded, but others don't. And it's something that ends up becoming more and more of an issue, because it means if you're trying to play Battle Royale or whatever else, you have to stream all of these images. And it's not just like the locker or anything, or just like skin meshes or whatever that get streamed, but HD textures get streamed to your game as well, which you're actually unable to get HD textures if you play on the Xbox app version, which is what we're on right now, which is why you can see this whole entire like low texturing effect going on. And to kind of actually explain this, maybe, you know, an Epic Games employee is listening, if I go to my settings real quick, and actually never mind, because it looks like they completely removed the setting entirely, but there used to be an option to enable or disable HD textures being streamed to your device, similar to what you have on mobile. However, it never ended up working on the Xbox app because it was like, oh, you need to have cellular data enabled, and that's something that you don't have on the Xbox app. So not only does Xbox kind of get, you know, messed out of actually even getting HD textures to begin with, but with how everything is being streamed to the game, if you're someone who plays on like a normal Xbox app or PC through the Epic Games Store or whatever else, you have more and more issues to worry about. And then if we go to the item shop right here, all of these images, everything that just loaded, used to be in the files. However, 99% of them is streamed to the game now. For example, this bundle image right here originally had a jam track icon in it. We actually showed you that original version before. However, now it's missing because instead of hotfixing it in the API like they've done before, they changed what the streamed image actually is. And that actually adds a little bit more confusion here, because even though everything is streamed to the game now, you know, back blings, skins, all that stuff is streamed, Epic Games still has the icons and stuff in the files. So if they're in the files right now, why is it a situation where everything still, if I go through here, needs to be streamed to my game first, right? I can see it in F-Model, a leaking tool, instantly, and it shows up perfectly fine. But if I go in my locker, and for example, if you have a skin that has like a lot of variants, trying to think which one has a lot of variants, because I don't think these have variants. They just have like a helmet on style, but you saw that actually took a moment there as well. If we go to our locker and we go to here, for example, all of these icons are still in the files. So why do I have to wait like an extra second for all the icons to load and everything? And why did I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different network requests actually done just to grab these images? I get that Epic Games wants to have the file size be smaller. You know, they want to be able to compete more with stuff like Roblox, but with this streamed asset system already in the game is still over 100 gigabytes, right? You know, usually 100 gigabytes is like my cutoff area where I will uninstall a game and just say no to playing it. Like I did that with Marvel Rivals. I don't want to play the game just because they went to 100 plus gigabytes just for that, and I didn't really care too much for it. But if this was made to, you know, make everything a little bit better on us, and it even happens in the banner icon, and honestly might be worse over in banner icons if we go through here, you can see how it kind of like loads in very slowly. It is something where it just is annoying, right? You know, it's something I don't want to deal with if I'm just trying to find a banner, because it's already hard enough to find a banner. Oh, well, you can see this one doesn't even have the black background on it. I know this has been an issue because this is how it is in the files for a long time, but before it still had the black background in the actual banner menu. Here you can see it just doesn't have that at all, which is kind of funny, but I don't want to have to deal with this, right? You know, it's already hard enough trying to find banners, so what if I'm like scrolling through here, it's like, oh, you know, a Good Gamers banner. What if I was trying to use that, and then I was just scrolling through and I missed it because half of the other banners just didn't load at that time, right? And I know that's a little bit of a tangent, but it's just annoying how this system's actually here, and how even though it's here, even though we're able to use this, for example, it is bad. It's a terrible system. I'm just saying it how it is, right? Because we used to have the option to at least download the pre-streamed assets, right? You know, be able to download extra gigabytes in storage to your computer in order to use these streamed assets without relying on the Cosmos API or anything. But ever since they started streaming more and more stuff to the game, ever since, you know, for example, we go in here, you can see all of these icons were streamed. Ever since they started doing more and more of the streaming stuff, they randomly revoked that option from us. So it's not even something where I can be like, oh, you know, if you hate this, at least on computer, you can just download the assets, you know, spend an extra 100 gigabytes on your storage or whatever to get it early. But no, this time around, they don't even want you to do that. They want everyone to have absolutely everything streamed to their game and not even in the files, really. And honestly, I just think it's pretty obnoxious, because there's been an issue people have seen, especially with the emote will, for example, here, where whenever they bring it up in an actual match, it still streams these icons. Like if I go all the way to the top here, it probably de-streamed this stuff. Oh no, it actually stayed loaded. I'm a little surprised by that. But in game, when you actually go to open your emote will, it will lag because it's requesting all of the icons icons for all the different emotes that are in your base will. And then if you open up the big menu, that's going to be even more lag. But this causes an actual gameplay issue as well, where sometimes when you go to do an emote in game, it will give you an error that that emote is not ready yet. Why is it not ready yet? I have the game downloaded. It's in the files. Sure, the icon's on the internet or whatever, you know, it's from a website request, but why is it that I can't do the emote because I haven't fully downloaded the icon or something? It doesn't make sense, and it just sucks to see how this is what Epic Games is trying to do with how they sort files and stuff. And I get, you know, in some cases it makes leaking a little bit harder, you know, in some cases it makes it so people who don't know how to get like the public key and all that type of stuff for Cosmos images are unable to actually leak from it. But people like me who know how to do that already and have bots set up to check the actual streamed asset images, it doesn't do anything but cause even more leaks of things that aren't even in the files yet. So I don't know why Epic Games is even doing this, why they're going through so much effort in order to make everything streamed, other than trying to keep the file size lower. And we already know that Epic Games wants to have it so you can use, like, for example, the Bunny O'Hare skin right here, any Fortnite skin, in other games that are linked to the actual Fortnite launcher or Unreal launcher they plan to rename it to or whatever else. But if that's going to be the case, does that mean I have to have this streamed cosmetic issue in every other game I play? Is that why the Cosmos system is even in place with streamed assets? So they can just stream the mesh into those other games? If that's the case, I would rather just not touch games that use Fortnite skins. Because sure, you know, on one hand, it would be cool to be able just to hop into any game in the Fortnite ecosystem as Dave the Diver, or Olivia, or, you know, Perry the Platypus, or whatever else. But I don't want to have the same issue I'm having here that made me want to make a whole entire video about it. And I don't want to have that over on Rocket League or Apex Fortnite Legends or GTA 6 or whatever else, right? You know, I want this issue to just not even exist. Give me the option to download the textures and meshes and everything else locally so I don't even have to worry about this, because we had the option before until they randomly removed it one day. But I definitely think the main reason behind the streamed assets and stuff isn't really just because they want to have the file size lower. I know I've mentioned that like 5 times that that's what they're planning to do. That's one of the reasons, but I also think it's because of their whole entire mindset that one day, you know, you'll go in the discovery menu, this is what you'll see when you launch Fortnite, and let's say, you know, like Mecha Chameleon, like the official Mecha Chameleon is here, and let's say it had support for Fortnite cosmetics. You'd be able just to click it and click select and play it and launch Mecha Chameleon while having all the Fortnite skins and stuff streamed to you. I think that's one of their end goals that they want to do. I'm not for sure if too many people have actually mentioned that end goal before or had the same thought as me. I'm sure someone out there has, but that's most likely the reason why they want to do all this streamed asset stuff, so that they can have that merging with other games while keeping those other games file sizes and everything else a little bit slower or lower. But I still think it is a terrible system, and I wish I just had the option to disable stream textures, especially when I'm like playing a match. I don't want to open my emote will and then have to wait a second for the emote will to load before my game actually loads it up properly and I can do an emote or run around or whatever. Because in the past we've already had issues, and I've complained about this before, where when we have like the fishing collection book, for example, it would pop up the collection book whenever you got a new fish or whatever, or whenever a quest was completed, and it would like drop my frames to 0 for like a second, right? That used to be an issue, and we've seen frame rate issues with Fortnite before, but this time around it's just like a plague. It's like COVID in the Fortnite cosmetic term, right? You know, it's just sitting there and it's infesting everything, and more updates. They continue to make more and more stuff streamed without making the system good. And, you know, in certain cases, like I don't have the kicks to actually show you guys this right now, but there have been some kicks that had their icon replaced with a placeholder icon, and we thought, okay, now that kicks are streamed to the game, you know, in terms of the images, the placeholder icon will be fixed and we'll be back to the old icon. However, in the actual streamed image that they put in the game, it is still a placeholder icon. So how do you mess up something in the game files by removing an icon that was already prepared and was already seen in the item shop when you released a thing? And how do you make it so the streamed version of it, which you can hotfix at any time, to this day is still a placeholder? It just doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, there's a million things that don't make sense about this game. With that said, hope you champs and champions enjoyed today's yap. You know, I just thought I would talk about this because it's been a topic that I've complained about with friends a million times now. And hopefully, you know, if you're someone who plays on PC, or maybe you're a console player with this issue. I'm not really familiar with how consoles deal with streamed assets as of yet, because I mainly play on the computer, but maybe you have some different input from what I had. You know, maybe you wish you had a DLC option on like the Xbox or PlayStation Store that allowed you to download like HD textures or pre-streamed assets as optional DLC so that you could have the same system that PC used to have. Until next time, however, I'll catch you champs and champions a little bit later with another upload. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it, and until tomorrow, peace out.